Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fond Pod. This is episode 160. This is Cody, and I'm here tonight with a full house. Justin and some less frequents we have with us here, Mr. Matt Hudson, and also Blue Andrew Blumenthal, our boy Blue Balls, Blue himself, Blue. So, welcome back to all our fondlings and fondlers. Tonight we're going to be looking at a topic that kind of just popped up in our chat that we keep with each other, and we had some pretty enthusiastic responses to it, so we kind of went with it today. We're going to go back to video games, but I'll keep a little secret here as to what we're doing with those quite yet. And let's see what these guys have been up to recently. So why don't we get Justin out of the way first, as Joe would prefer it. We'll just move him along here. So Justin, what you been up to way up north there?
I have been trying to, in my own small parts in the financial industry that I work in,
Oh
I have been
boy.
trying to assuage people's panic over like the penny being discontinued and thinking they're going to lose all their money to the federal government. I've seen so many pennies go out the door over the past week or two. It's not even funny.
They're
Pennies are the
hoarding
new
them.
toilet paper.
Yeah. Basically, people think that by buying pennies, like before the mint stops making them, they're going to somehow end up rich someday. And spoiler alert, everybody listening to this, that is not going to happen.
But what
Uh,
about all those machines at like carnivals and like museums where you put the penny in and then you crank it and it like flattens it out and puts an image on it? What are we gonna do about those?
Yeah, but now there'll
Smelt
be a
them.
guy in a
we
trench coat there who's like, "Hey
well,
kid, you want to buy a
You
penny for
want,
five
some
bucks?"
pennies?
according to these
I
people, we
got
have
a
to stop.
roll of pennies here for you.
We have to stop those machines because they might be
Oh,
destroying priceless artifacts from
yeah.
America's history. Uh, so yeah, it's been a lot of trying to deal with that and convince people that no, your money probably isn't going to just be taken by Elon Musk. It's just work has been a madhouse lately because of everything going on.
He may
But
not take your
I've
money, but he has your social security number.
yeah, and that's the thing. I have to hedge everything I say because I don't want to lie, lie by omission. Everything I say, I have to preface, add an addendum of at least that's how it works now. Because who the hell knows when, in a month from now, what lunacy is going to be flying through the government. Um,
How many of your customers have noticed that the letters FDIC are no longer on the front door?
credit unions are actually covered by something different called CUNA, but I'm pretty sure that's next
Thank
on the chopping
goodness.
block. So yeah. Um, Aside from that, I've been really devoting a lot of time to our topic today, just going back for a lot of nostalgia hits, and in all honesty, that's really helped me get through some of this. It has been a nice, calming, just bit of joy in my life, and yeah, it's been a lot of stress these past couple of weeks, and this has been a nice reprieve. So I'm very happy to be back on the show. Um,
Excellent.
yeah, that's about
Well,
it for me.
I hope you're ready for us to disagree and shit all over your choices because just like anything else, being subjective, musical taste is very, very entrenched.
Yeah,
But
but you're a Sega guy too, Blue. I mean,
that's true. We'll be in cahoots. We'll just
yeah.
tell
You'll
Cody
be
that
the
he's
only
got a
other
terrible
house that can
choice.
actually pronounce the names of his games tonight, Andrew. So
Yeah, Castle Shikigami 3, Boot Quest.
Tentacalia Fantasia Rapiagio, Part 7, Spaghetti Warrior.
Ninth day divided by pi.
Right.
Hudson
All
looks
right.
like he.
Such a poser.
Oh God.
Uh,
How about you, Blue? What you been up to recently? Or
Not a
not so
whole lot.
recently?
I feel like similar with Henry, just watching the world slowly burn and being along for the ride and realizing that maybe I'm just meant to be a passenger and that's why I'm alive during this period of history.
Hmm.
And, also on a depressing note, teaching uh, Western civilization and world history to seventh graders and looking at all these civilizations that have now existed for about as long as ours has. Being like, whoa, what is this all about? And am I depressed? I don't know, but I'm trying to lead the world's youth here.
Wait. Are you teaching, Blue?
I am. I'm teaching world history now.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I started teaching seventh graders about 2 weeks ago. remotely. It is pretty delightful. I actually love it a lot. So, uh, since we're all teachers, like the first year is literally just churning out lessons and feeling prepped. So I think a lot of my free time is just going to putting my best foot forward and, you know, not a whole lot else, but uh my kiddo and I we started playing Wind Waker together on the GameCube and he was super curious about that and I was so we just started sailing around in a boat and just beat the first dungeon. So that is probably the only gaming I have done other than some Slay the Spire. So yeah, that's a little bit of everything. Otherwise, we are all good and healthy and doing fine.
How about you? What you up to?
Was that to me?
Yeah, you're Matt.
Oh, well, there was something happened with that. I like blipped for a second. Anyway, yeah. I'm just I don't know. I really don't have time to do this, but like the rest of you, I'm dealing with the world going the world's way, and frankly, it's just nice to talk about something that I find happy. So, uh, as well, most of my time is taken up. I spent my entire day grading today. I'm sure you can understand that. Um, just did like this poetry competition with my students, and that was pretty cool. They all did really well. So
Awesome.
pleased with that. Yeah, almost to the end of third quarter, so plugging through this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will try to not comment on the crushing dread that's out there for the
Come
world
on,
then
do
for
it.
mine.
Do it.
So,
All the cool kids are doing it.
yeah, I guess so. No, I will. I've also been super busy. I was mentioning before we started, tomorrow I actually am taking on another class to wrap up the last 3 months of the school year. So I'm adding a sixth hour teaching now, and I'll have a duty still besides that for a seventh hour. So I'll go 1 through 7 straight through now the last 3 months and only be off the last hour of the day. So I'm adding an English class to my curriculum starting tomorrow, 10th grade English, in addition to my
Do
5
you,
social studies classes.
do you get extra for that at least?
Yes.
Oh, good. Good.
Yes, I will get paid extra. It was optional. I had a choice to do it or not do it, but I couldn't resist the pay, so I'm going to do it and see if I can pay off most of my baseball tickets for this summer with it. So there we go. Already spent, done, over with. But out for my other thing, I will plug last night. I went to the movies to go see my number 6 most anticipated movie of the year, which was The Monkey, adaptation of a Stephen King short story put together by some modern day horror pedigree, director and producer. And it was a very enjoyable flick, I will say. It's probably less horror than you would imagine going into it, and I would not at any point say it's comedy, but there are situations that occur that are a little comical, and the characters themselves are funny at times also, but very, very creative deaths, I will say, for as many movies as I've seen in my lifetime. They came up with new ways to kill people in this movie that I was like, never seen that one before. Okay. So it was pretty fun. It was a fun little jaunt. So all right. Okay, well, we decided to impromptuly here kind of come up with our top 10 favorite video game soundtracks tonight. Um, all of us being video gamers, and to different extents, you're probably having love of different games, musics throughout the years, and all of us having played many systems throughout the years as well, and played many games. This is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. If Matt Hudson will stick to what is the AM Gold version of video game soundtracks and stick with stuff only from 1988 or earlier, or if he'll actually throw a couple newer ones in there,
It's
whether or
mixed.
not. What's that?
It's mixed.
Oh, okay. Whether or not anything Justin picks actually hit the Western Shores over here, that might be interesting to see. And Andrew probably just has the Ninja Turtle games picked for his. So
How did you know? Yeah,
Manhattan Project. Woo. So anyway, let's get into this. We each have a top 10. We each have some
So does
honorable
that mean you pick
mentions.
something outside of Nintendo?
Talking to me?
Yeah.
Um,
You
Mm,
throwing some jabs? I had to throw one your way.
Bayou Billy.
I tell you what,
Black Bass
I'll
2.
tell you what, some of my games appeared on systems other than Nintendo systems. How about that? Does that count? Well, actually, hold on.
Perhaps.
I might surprise you here right in the onset. So we
All
do
right.
have some honorable mentions we're going to get out of the way first, and then we'll get into the top 10 proper today. And as I feel like I probably dedicated the least amount of time to choosing my list tonight, I will voluntarily go first and let you guys have the suspense of your picks as we go through
You
tonight.
give us far too much credit.
Oh, I know Justin put in way more time than I did. Plus, I feel like you guys all know video game soundtracks better than I as well. Where Justin and Blue will routinely talk about some Japanese composer who put together some background ding in some game that never was released, Choo Choo Chubu Land 3 or something that never came here. And
Hip
Hudson,
Tanaka.
obviously,
Sounds like
you
it's a Hip
know,
Tanaka score.
see, and you know your video game soundtracks because you scored an entire freaking musical based on them. So, okay, well, there you go. So I'm going to put me as the low man here tonight. And I'll go first. So, two games right out of the bat here that I disqualified. Here's what. I didn't pick these two because they are both compilations of previously existing musics. So, my honorable mention one, I guess, is going to be Dance Dance Revolution DDR Max 1 for the PlayStation 2, which really, again, is just mostly a collection of other songs, but I love them, and it's a rhythm based game, so obviously you like the music or you wouldn't play it. And my second one probably would have been my number one tonight, but I don't feel like it's a fair choice, which is Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which is just fantastic songs. There's about 80 songs on there I would listen to, but again, it's all stuff that's not from the game. It means the game experience is fantastic, but it's not really a true soundtrack of original songs. So those two. And then I'm going to add to that a couple oldies here. Mega Man 2 just got pushed out of my top 10 at the end here today. And I'm going to throw some more love for one of my favorite NES games, Star Tropics. It's got that nice little funky jungle beat of going to the islands. And then a totally different style of music here for my last honorable mention, which I played on, I'm pretty sure PS2. I know they have re-released this game in some other formats, but this is Shadow of the Colossus for my last honorable mention. So those are my five: Mega Man 2, Vice City, DDR Max, Shadow of the Colossus, and Star Tropics. Or is it Star Tropics? We don't know from the way they spelled it. We don't know. Either one. Who'd like to go second tonight?
I can go.
Okay.
First off, I'll give you I had to come up with some criteria for this because
Yeah.
it's a huge body. We're talking 40 years of video games, and I don't know. So first off, I don't have to like the game. There's plenty of games that have great music that I do not enjoy playing. Just like there's there's movies I don't like, but I love the scores to them. Um, I have to have listened to the music outside of playing the game. The music had to be written for the game. That takes out the Grand Theft Autos and stuff like that. And if I used it in arcade, all the better. Most of these I did at some point in time, unless it's a newer one that I just hadn't. Anyway, my five honorable mentions are first I'm gonna go with an old Apple game, Below the Root. The problem with it is the reason why it's not on the list is because it's literally one melody, one note melody, and it's really short. But I used to play the game just to listen to it. So, second honorable mention is going to be Street Fighter 2. Any iteration will do. They're all great songs in that. Um, Third is going to be The Secret of Monkey Island. That has that Star Tropics sort of feel to it. It's a great score. Specifically, the orchestrated one that's on the CD-ROM version is amazing. Fourth, I'm going to go with a game called Pressure Cooker. That's an Atari 2600 game, again with a very short melody, but it's really catchy. And there's an interesting story about how the guy wrote it, where he could only use certain notes. So he had this keyboard and he put black on all the keys he couldn't use, and he wrote this short little ditty. And my last one is similar to Cody's, but I went with Mega Man 1 instead of Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 is probably the better score, but I like the Mega Man 1 has a little bit more. It's just a little happier to me. I don't know. I just like that warm Mega Man 1 score.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Good variety, good choices. All right, who wants to go third for honorable mentions?
Um, well, Blue is muted right now, so I guess I'll
Go.
go.
Yeah, go for
it. All right. So I also had some criteria, similar to Matt. Mine, it had to be a game whose soundtrack had more than just one really good hit. It had to be a solid soundtrack overall, or at least have two or three really good songs in it to carry it. It couldn't just be like one and then the rest was forgettable. Did have to be a game I played. And I think everything else Matt kind of covered. So with that under the belt, my honorable mentions, I have four of them. First is Double Dragon Neon, a game with some really good songs, some that are good enough to actually get drunk and sing in front of your friends and never, ever live it down. But a lot of the music in it is just sort of forgettable. So, like the ending theme, fantastic. The theme to I think stage two, really solid. I would listen to that anytime. The rest of it is just sort of meh. Um, Second, Near, the first one, really interesting music, but I have to be in the right mood to actually listen to it. It's got everything from like faux Gregorian chants to like almost kind of cyberpunky kind of mixes to it's a really unique soundtrack. It's worth a listen, but it's weird. Third, Dynamite Heady, a mostly forgotten platformer for the Sega Genesis. I played the hell out of this thing as a kid because it had some really cool mechanics, and the soundtrack is nice and lively, but it's not really memorable. Like it's fun in the time, when you're listening to it, but nothing really stuck with me from it. And finally, Crypt of the Necrodancer, which is a game based entirely on music and fighting to the beat and everything. But its strong tracks are kind of mixed in with a lot that are just sort of also very meh. So those are my four honorable mentions.
I like it. There's some good choices in there. I feel like this is gonna be great. And that Cody's the bottom here. He's out of his depth here.
Yep. New fish.
All right, so I feel like Matt laid out criteria that after Cody shared some of his games that I put together. I have two honorable mentions that are basically compilations of music because that was kind of the era of the game. So I had the first Tony Hawk Pro Skater because I feel like that soundtrack is awesome with some punk and some ska and rock while you're just like shredding rails and being super cool skater dude. And then I also picked Burnout 3 as another great compilation of music. It's got My Chemical Romance. It's got basically tons Motion City soundtrack. Lots of really, really good tunes while you're like slamming cars off the road. Pretty amazing. Fits the vibe. And then honorable mention, just more of it. The rest of the soundtrack is fine, but the tune that really absolutely slays is the GoldenEye 64 pause music. Just that track alone gets an honorable mention for being way too good of a song for that soundtrack. So those are my three. I would definitely throw Grand Theft Auto in there because they pick some awesome songs for any of the 7 or 8 games that have come out. Vice City's up there. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
Did you say the pause music?
Yeah, the Golden I-64 pause music. You've played
Okay.
it. It's
Just making sure I heard you.
goes
I
so
don't.
hard.
I gotta. What? How does that sound?
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I remember that one.
Boo, doo,
I
boo,
just couldn't
boo,
remember
boo.
what the pot like. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't put on my list either because it doesn't even fit. Doesn't technically even fit a criteria at all for tonight. But my daughter told me to put on the Wii menu music.
Oh, it's so good. Or the Wii Shop.
She said both of our neighbors to the left and right, who are both also 13, both know that song even if they've never played video games. And I was like, do 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 do.
Boop, 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 boop.
I was like, okay,
Oh,
there we go.
Aren't there like there's just some good earworms, man?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, let's kick this off. We'll keep that same order rolling through as we go through today. I'll do my best to try to be Brett and tabulate some overlap we may or may not have tonight in our contest. I don't know how much overlap we'll have, but we'll see. As Matt said, we got 40 years we're pulling from here, so
I'm guessing there's at least a couple.
if we have some that are multiple, they're probably going to be our top winners tonight, but we'll see. I'm gonna make a not so bold choice that my number one is on nobody else's list tonight, so that's probably something maybe you guys can say too. We'll see.
Yeah, balls with a Z, we know.
Oh, damn, you
You're-
ruined my joke. That was going to be my joke pick for number one.
We're on the same wavelength. We got some hive minding going tonight. It's gonna be great.
Oh, goodness, goodness, goodness. Okay, my number 10 game, kicking us off with a fighting game, but it is not Street Fighter 2. This is one that I didn't actually see listed on any websites either as like a famous soundtrack, but I always had fond memories of this one. And I went back and listened to all the tracks from this game, and they're all solid. Like they all hold up. They make me amped up. I can picture the scene in the game where these take place. And this is Double Dragon for the NES. Just solid, repetitive beats, but just they get you amped up just enough to be like, I'm gonna go save somebody's girlfriend in case they got captured by some gang. So this is my number 10. Just good memories of this one and the do 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 do. We're probably gonna have a lot of impressions tonight, I'm guessing, as people go through their songs. But Double Dragon, that's my number 10 to kick us off.
We need some like drinks so that by like 3/4 of the way through, we just start scatting the the Zataran's band comes
I'm
out.
halfway through. I'm halfway through. I might have to go fill up.
Uh,
All right, so Matt, you'd be up next then for your 10Z.
Okay, my number 10. This is going to be an older one, and none of you have ever heard of it. Probably, I'm guessing. It's an old type-in game for the Apple II called Dark Lord. This is the shortest soundtrack on my list. The entire score clocks in at 11 minutes, about. And I know that because I recorded every track from it and strung it together in one long mix. The Apple is not known for being a good music machine, by the way. It's not. But the way it was programmed was it shifts really quickly between various tones to make chords, and the score is so very good. And I used to play it just to listen to it. I did at one point in time use a track from it in arcade, but right now it's not in the current mix. But I tried to get a hold of the composer a long time ago. I looked up his name and I found like a place where I thought like he lived, and I was gonna like I had a letter typed up just telling him how much I liked this music, and I was gonna send it to him, and I never did. But then this weird thing happened. Before Twitter went to the dark side, uh, he actually posted, or like no, the programmer of the game posted on Twitter, and then the composer like commented on it. Anyway, my brother and I, who both love the score, like ended up commenting to this guy, and somehow we exchanged emails, and for a while, like the three of us were just emailing back and forth. And he's like, "Hey, if you ever make it out to, I think he lives near LA or something," and he's like, "You should come visit. We can go to Disneyland." I'm like, "That's cool." Like, he's a really nice guy. Like, and I wrote down standout tracks for each game. I don't know if you guys did that, but the standout track for that one for me is when you eat this thing and it gives you the ability to fly, and you fly over to an island. And the music for flying over to the island is so very pretty and so very nice. And he told us, the guy's name is Gary Willens, and he told us that he wrote that like way back in like high school or college for his girlfriend at the time, which I thought was kind of cool. But yes, Dark Lord for the NES.
nice. Okay.
The S
My
for the
number.
Apple.
Apple. Sorry.
All right.
Cody's infecting you.
Yeah, he is.
All right. My number 10, I played this on the Sega Genesis, but in researching the soundtrack to it to like refamiliarize myself with it after like 30 years, I initially started listening to the Amiga version, which is also good, but has a different quality to it. My number 10 is Shadow of the Beast by Psygnosis, which was known for its just kind of weird, almost dreamlike games. And both versions of the soundtrack are certainly worth listening to, but every once in a while, like the I think it's the theme to stage one, will get stuck in my head, and I'll just like it'll just be there, and it'll be there for like the better part of a day. And the Genesis version has this interesting like woodwind quality to some of the notes that I don't think I've ever heard it replicate in any other game. Just really interesting, ethereal, almost dreamlike music at times. And just a strange game in general. Like even the cover of this thing looks like the cover of a Yes album, and it makes sense when you play it. It's a very strange game, very good music. Yeah, Shadow of the Beast, number 10.
Let's see, just in no particular order. I think I put uh if I was gonna rank these lower, I have Double Dragon 2, just to be in solidarity for one moment in this podcast with Cody. Uh Technosoft put out some really good bangers, me kicking people out of helicopters and punching them in the air. And yeah, just the first track on it. I mean, it's like walking down the street throwing pipes at people. It's pretty sweet. So Double Dragon 2. Don't even really say much on that one. I don't know the composer. Wherever he is, I'll pull one out for him. And it's great. Great, great.
I almost picked Double Dragon 3 as one, so
Oh my,
that would have been crazy.
the trifecta. Well, there's still a chance, and no one will be any the wiser. We'll just have Cody edit it out. So that's my number 10.
To pick Neon, so you never know here. All right, number 9 for me. I wanted to get one of these games in the top 10, and this one's the one I ended up choosing, even though gameplay wise, I remember being a good game, but I actually don't remember the game that well compared to many of its brethren. This is Super Mario Galaxy 2, which just beautiful tracks all through this game. Each of the worlds had kind of some different vibes to it, so you get a little variety of the music in here as well. I remember Galaxy 1, the game, way more than I do 2, the game. But I listened to both of them a little bit this week and enjoyed the music. Maybe just a smidge more on Super Mario Galaxy 2, which was a surprise to me, but that's my number 9.
All right. Number 9 for me. This is also going to be kind of an odd. Sure, you guys never heard of this. It's an old computer game called Hodge and Podge from the mid '90s. It's a board game where you play a bunch of mini games, and each of the mini games has a different theme that plays while you're playing it, and they're all really catchy. Again, I recorded them all onto an audio tape when I was a kid, and just listened to it all the time. Standout track for me is for the game called Beacon. But my brother said he preferred art parts. Not that that really matters. That means very little to anybody. But Hodge and Podge, great score.
Nice. Let's see, my number 9. Bizarrely, this game has been like remade and re-released and had sequels to it like off and on for like 25 years from the first release. But I'm talking about the original release of it. It's called Sylphid. It is. I played it on the Apple II GS. The score I was able to find on YouTube was from the DOS version, and it sounds very similar from what I remember. But it was a isometric shoot 'em up, and my first introduction to 3D graphics. Because like it was very rudimentary. The screen was very small, but all of the ships and asteroids. Well, the asteroids I think were just image files, but the ships themselves were like very crude polygonal models that were actually rendered in the game. And the soundtrack, I believe, is only 6 tracks long, but each one of them it is stuck with me for like over 30 years. Um, from the opening theme to when you're approaching one of the asteroid bases to when you're getting ready to do the final boss fight, it's just it's very MIDI, but holy crap, the composer, whoever he or she was, they did a fantastic job of pushing the Apple II GS hardware and like early DOS hardware to its limits. Just really well done, really interesting scores, and it has struck a chord with me that's lasted for decades. So that's Sylphid for early computers. 2GS, DOS, probably the Tandy or something. But yeah.
There's a surprising amount of computer games here that I was not expecting, I suppose. So that's surprising. Since Cody called me out on it earlier, here's my nine. It's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle arcade game. It's great Konami beat 'em up. It's the first video game I ever beat, but man, is that soundtrack pretty awesome. Just captures the vibe of the comic, of the cartoon, the theme song and future releases of the game. They do all these compilations these days of all of these, greatest hits, but the soundtracks are often the most tricky part for releasing these. And so, when they are re-released, they don't always have the rights to the sound or the soundtracks. And so if you play like the arcade one up or what was it? There's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles compilation for like the Switch and PS5 and Xbox, and the soundtracks are altered or different. And in this case, like I don't think when you do that, you lose a little bit of the edge or like the classic feeling of it. So TMNT arcade game, fantastic. That's my nine.
My eight. Let's see what I can do for you guys here. I'm gonna go back a bit for this one. Here's the thing: can you have a perfect soundtrack but be rated number eight? I'd argue yes.
Okay,
I
Ron
got
Burgundy.
I got Tetris for the Game Boy at number eight. I don't know how you beat it, but it's just not a lot of variety. What they got is pretty short, but you can sit and play the game for hours with just those simple songs over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
Can,
Doesn't
can I
get
ask you?
old.
Can I ask you a question though?
Yeah.
Why the Game Boy and not the NES? Because the NES has the good theme C, whereas the Game Boy has not as good theme C.
All right. If I'm being 100% honest, I just wrote Tetris. I didn't really write a system by it, but
Yeah, I'm with Matt.
you're right.
Okay,
I probably.
the theme
mm,
C for the Game Boy is good, but I love theme C for the NES. It's so overlooked. Such
I'm
a good
actually
game.
trying to. I probably did play the NES one more than the Game Boy one, I bet. So, all right, we'll say the NES one instead then.
I'm sorry, I'm a dick.
No, you're good. I didn't. I literally had the game written down. I didn't have a system even with it. So, but yeah, I mean it's iconic theme, and I don't know how you could do better. It's just not enough variety to carry it a little higher on the list here.
Anybody else have any other TurboGrafx 16 games on their list? Because the TurboGrafx 16 is an amazing music machine. The
Just my last
soundtracks,
seven games.
the soundtracks for those games are almost all amazing, but I only picked one because I could only put 10 on the list. And I picked Dungeon Explorer. It's a great game. Actually, the game is not necessarily great. I bought it expecting a Zelda-like game, and what I got was um, Gauntlet with a plot, which I didn't
Hmm.
want as much. But it's still got a great soundtrack. And my standout track, which I was trying to find the name for, but I couldn't. All I got was Dungeon 8. I think it's Rotter Road, but I don't know. I haven't played the game since the mid 90s, probably, or late 90s. I don't know. Whenever I last played it all the way through. But it's an excellent score. I'd really recommend playing some TurboGrafx 16 for the music. Great system for music.
I actually played that one on the Sega CD back in the day, but it's been so long that I don't really remember much aside from the general gameplay and the fact that there is no good ending. Like no matter what you choose at the end, your character is screwed over. Um, but yeah, I do remember playing that one. Um, so my number eight, finally segueing into something people might have heard of, Chrono Trigger for the
Mhm.
SNES.
Mhm.
It later got released on, I believe, the PlayStation and I think the DS, and then like Steam later on and stuff. But it has some very timeless tracks. Like during the 2022 Olympics in Japan, when they used video game music for like all the athletes and the coming out, and I heard Frog's theme played. It's
That's
just like,
awesome.
oh my God. It almost brought a tear to my eye because it's like this brings me back to a game I haven't played in decades. And it's just all of those happy memories that just came flooding back. And going back and listening to the original score, it just it's great. It has a few. It definitely has that early '90s tinny quality to it, which is fine. Um, and it's not quite as strong as some of the other ones higher up my list, but it is still very much worth a listen. Chrono Trigger, my number 8.
Let's see. You know, I feel like Uematsu is going to come out of here and Cody's going to eventually fall asleep and we'll have to keep running this thing. But I'm going to kick it off here with my other Nintendo 64 reference. I'm going to go with Super Mario 64. Some really, really good classic themes that we could skibbity bop to, but the Dire Dire Docks is a standout track.
Use it in arcade.
Yeah. You what?
I use it in my musical.
I love it. Yeah, there we go. Dire Dire Docks is a good one. Just the Bob-omb, like the first stage when you're running around, or even the castle music, all just good, composed tracks. I think like the era of that music, now that we can do like symphony grade level stuff, all the compositions are like MIDI from like the late 90s to early 2000s. So the quality isn't good, but like the score itself is fantastic. So I don't know, I have great memories, and so nostalgia is tied to that game, but I, love Super Mario 64 for its great, great soundtrack. So
Picturing you using dry ducks to do inappropriate activities now, but that's there.
dry
So
die docks, yes. We drock our die dry. Rip, rip. What's your 7, Cody?
Hey, my number 7 game was a game I haven't played in a very long time, but I was reminded how good this music was, and if it's possible to have a game's graphics match its music, I feel like this was kind of an early instance of that. This is for Super Nintendo, and this is going to be the original, though I hear online more people prefer part 2, the original Donkey Kong Country, which is fantastic. Obviously, again, just like Blue mentioned there, we got some water stages here that are beautiful with some music, but also even just like running through the jungles or going down some mine carts or whatever it is we have, or being blasted out of some barrels. We got some good background music in this one, and it was the full package, I think, when this game came out. I think I got this game with like Kool-Aid points or something, if I recall, back in the day when you could like get a video game for just drinking sugar. It was pretty great. So,
Oh yeah.
Donkey Kong Country.
That's you, Matt.
Oh, you're done.
That
Sorry.
was it. Donkey Kong
Uh,
Country.
All right, excellent. That was all the lead up to the name. So my another system that actually has great scores just all around that is kind of overlooked for that got to be the Game Boy. And my Game Boy pick, I really thought about, Blue, this make you maybe happy. I really thought about TMNT, Fall the Foot Clan, great songs, but I didn't go with that one. I went with Final Fantasy Legend 2, which is not actually a Final Fantasy game. It's technically a Saga game, but we didn't know that till like late 2000s. At least I didn't. It's I don't know. I like the original Final Fantasy Legend or Saga 1 better as a game, but the soundtrack to Legend 2 is just choice. Especially the main overworld theme called The Legacy is, look it up sometime, just listen to it. It's very energizing. It's great. Final Fantasy Legend 2, aka Saga 2.
I you're right. Final Fantasy Legend or Saga 1 is really, really great.
You played the game?
Oh yeah, on Game Boy, and I beat it. It's great.
Amazing game. I love that. I try to sell that game to so many people, but no one ever plays it.
I mean, if you like it's weird in the sense of having to charge up your shot every time. Wait, I feel
Are you
like
thinking of Final Fantasy Adventure?
I'm thinking Final Fantasy Adventure.
Also a great game.
Also
a great game.
But it's like that because that's a spin-off.
Dry Docks here?
They're Dry Die Docks, yeah.
Charging up your shot? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah. Isn't it funny that basically these games got ported and ended up being completely different titles, but as a marketing ploy, They're like, yeah, people will recognize Final Fantasy, they'll buy it. And it's ended up being the Trials of like the Mana game versus the Saga series. So yeah, it's interesting, but also a great game. Both soundtracks are good. Did not make my top 10.
Boy, let him down gently. Jeez.
Yeah.
Also, arguably a great game. At least I think Joe would agree if he were here. My number seven is Toe Jam and Earl for the Sega Genesis. It basically the plot is you play as one of two, or if you have a friend, you both play as aliens who have crash landed on Earth. Earth in heavy quotation marks because none of this looks like Earth. And you're going around trying to avoid, taxis and, just crazy people who are trying to run you over and kill you to put your ship back together. Your characters come from a planet called Funkotron, and the soundtrack really reflects that. It has a very kind of hip hop, just funky beat throughout the entire game, and it is well worth a listen. It's again very 90s MIDI, but holy crap, is it good. So yeah, Toe Jam and Earl for the Genesis, my number seven.
Let's see here. I'm gonna take a look at my list. I have for seven. I'm gonna go with the Game Boy just because I think you're hitting the pinnacle of this is Game Boy Color era, so a little bit more processing power than the original DMG system. But I'm gonna go with Pokemon Silver and Gold. And a lot of time spent in those. The composition of a lot of the routes had different musics. So when you're catching Pokemon, uh, you'll be hearing a route music, you'll have battle music, you'll have trainer music. So there's a surprisingly the amount of songs that are on a tiny cartridge is astounding. Um, some of the city tunes are great, and for as many time, I guess hundreds of hours that I spent playing that game, the tunes never get old, and that's the trademarks of a good soundtrack. So, um, don't sleep on that one. It's had some remakes of it, but I feel like just the original chip tune. There's something distinct about the tinniness of a chip tune. I have a few cartridge-based games that are on the list here tonight, but I feel like that's my first one that's a handheld, and I love it. So, Pokemon Silver and Gold. Number seven, Casey Kasem. What do you
Yes.
think?
I only picked cartridge games. I thought, okay. Um,
We weren't supposed to pick disc-based games.
what is a disc-based game? I've never even heard of that before.
It's a
Um,
disc.
Disc. All right, my number six is going to be one of my newer games on my top 10, and I feel like we have done nothing but praise this game on the history of this podcast and also lament its sequel. So this is Hollow Knight at number six for us, which we've said plenty about, even recently as this year's podcast, 2025. But like the gameplay was amazing. The story was enough to hook me in on that. But the atmosphere, I think, and the visuals in the game were really brought to life and enhanced by the music in this game with just the way each, what you call it, zone or world or whatever you want to say, had its own little feel to it, and the music reflected that. And this was just a dreary, atmospheric, wonderful collection of tracks, I feel like, here in Hollow Knight. So I'm going to give it more praise on this one with my number six award. So Hollow Knight, number six.
Do you have a standout track?
I do not have a standout track, at least top of my head.
I do, but it'll come later when I
Probably the
When you-
pause music. I don't know if you've heard the pause music before. It kind of goes
You
doot,
should.
doot,
You should have.
doot, doot, doot. Oh,
my
We hold
my
you in
number
contempt.
my number six is um it's a game I love because of the fact that I was like losing interest in games when not when it came out, because I didn't play it for a good like 5 or 6 years until I like and it was a free game online for a long time, and it's called Cave Story.
Mhm.
And excellent soundtrack there. It just got me back into playing games, and I got into it while I was on tour in West Virginia, and I don't know, just an excellent score, excellent gameplay. Just kind of hooked me in. And my standout track is "On to Grass Town," which I think my brother disagreed with that one as well, but I forget what he said. He liked in that one, but yeah.
Nice. All right. My number six is a disc-based game. Sorry, Cody. I know this is
dear
new and
God.
unfamiliar territory to you. But I think it actually might be my first disc-based game on the list. Castlevania Symphony of the Night for the original
Good one.
PlayStation. Thank you. Yeah,
Considered it.
I don't know the names of the tracks well enough to pick one,
Isn't Bloody Tears? Do do
Probably.
do 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 do
Yeah.
Nicholas Castle for me.
do do do.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this game is full of good music. Like from the word go, it rockets right out of the gate with just very solid tracks that they're by turns like symphonic and just really energetic and kind of melancholy at times, and it's just it is such a good game for all sorts of reasons, and the soundtrack is definitely one of them. Symphony of the Night, fantastic mix.
That's a good question here since we have a variety of hosts at the moment. I, does Konami have like some sort of perpetuity agreement with Sony that they can't bring this game to other systems like 30 years later? Like, why can't I play this on a Nintendo system today?
Okay, Cody, I've hacked my PlayStation Mini. I am planning on sometime in the near future sending it to you so you can play the damn thing because I feel like you should.
Yes.
All right? I'm going to do this for you.
Yeah.
It's my goal.
I mean,
One day
there's
I
a
will ask you
Castlevania
to return the
collection.
favor.
Wait, isn't there a Castlevania collection on Switch?
It doesn't have
yes.
it
Doesn't
doesn't
have
have
Does it
those.
have
Symphony.
Symphony of the Night
Oh,
on
it
it?
doesn't?
No, it doesn't have like 3 or 4 of the PlayStation ones still.
Oh man.
You could
I
always
guess
get a
that's what I'm
track
saying.
down
Like,
a Sega
I don't get what the
Saturn.
deal is here.
It had, Symphony of the Night was on Sega Saturn,
Like,
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
so
Oh,
you
well,
could
it's-
It's
you
like
just got to track one of those down.
it's
Yeah,
extended.
sure.
There's more
It'll
on
be
it on that
horrendously
one, but I've never
expensive.
played that version.
Yeah.
all right,
think
I was
the
just
load-
curious.
yeah.
Just curious.
Also a disc-based system.
That's probably it.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let's get an unpopular one, some eye rolls, but I love it. It's a good trilogy. I consider any other game that comes after the original trilogy of it to be a bunch of lies. And I'm gonna go with the original Halo Combat Evolved soundtrack. So fantastic, like Gregoric monk chanting at the beginning, and it's like you all know it if you've played it. Cody is melding it kind of suggestively for the viewers.
Just like he does.
Yep. I can see him, yes, channeling his inner Gregoric monk chant. But anywho, the game is great. The soundtrack is pretty good. I know Henry would say it's questionable writing, but I think for the era, it was a groundbreaking shooter and kind of set the tone for a lot of first-person shooters from there on out. And the first 3 games are awesome. And then 343 Studios was like, I'm gonna screw this one up because we want to milk this cash cow for all it's worth. So I think it's Mr. O'Donnell is the composer of that soundtrack. It's great. There's some really, really good atmospheric tunes. There's one where you're basically like going in at the middle of the night to basically conduct like a stealth mission, and it's very kind of like the underwater theme of Donkey Kong Country.
Don't you dare! Don't you dare!
Really sets the mood. This track, you're basically going in under the cover of dark, and it sets the mood pretty good for Murder in Covenant. But really, really good action-packed soundtrack that really fits the mood. And the technological feat is like the music would change depending on what area of the level you're on, which was pretty cool and seamless at the time. So from sound design and engineering, I think it was pretty neat. So it has to be on the list for me. So I'm going to say Halo, and then lumping 2 and 3 together because same sound team did that. Yeah. Cody's never owned an Xbox, so he doesn't know.
I played Halo though
Well, good.
for like 2 hours one night.
You remember how we used to in the West Hall play GoldenEye and we get together and play it in the TV? I went down once after we lived there and they're playing Halo and I'm like, oh, this is a game like that. I could play that. And then these kids are
Teabagging
just
you.
like slaughtering me left and right. And then I decided I'm never playing another Halo game in my life, and that ended that.
There's two thumbsticks. Where are the C buttons?
That's fair. That is fair. All
All
right.
right, Cody, hit us
We're
up
up
with your
to.
6 American Gladiators for the NES. Great.
How about I do you one better and give you my 5? See, you don't even know how many you have on your list over
I
there.
don't know. I'm
Oh.
drunk.
All right, my number 5 game. This is I feel like I also recently. Oh yeah, because we did most anticipated games. Maybe I have some recency bias here with these, but my number 5 is a game where maybe one of the first times I can recall just like standing mid-stage and taking in the ambiance of both sound effects and music in a game. And that was particularly in the ice and snow world, but there were other places in the game as well that I enjoyed this. And this is the first Metroid Prime game, which I think just has some really, really interesting sound design, even beyond just like soundtrack, but just like the noises that are made and like the songs on this are just so unique. There's like space noises, for lack of a better term. Like, I don't know, there's just like these sound effects that I have never heard in another game before that are kind of like garbly sound effects, but they match what's happening on the screen and with the story. And there's like some echoing going on here as we're getting more complex and detailed and layered songs on this. And then we just have kind of beyond all that, the actual like background music that's playing as well. And it all adds up to just like kind of a really surreal experience. I mean, the Metroid games in general, I considered some of the other ones for my list as well, including Super and the original and some of the other Prime games also. But this is the one that I'm going to put on here tonight is Metroid Prime at number 5.
Got a great like main theme, like main the I forget what it's called, but the main title music is great. I have the Prime trilogy, and you don't get that until you get to the end credits in that one, but it's still a good song.
Okay.
My number 5 also I got into while I was on tour in West Virginia. I came across, and I didn't know this game existed because it only came out in Region 2, I believe, and like Japan and stuff like that. Um, but it is Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, which I continually try to get people to play this stupid game. Like, and I
Nobody
tell
owns
them
an MSX though.
maybe you should play the first one first, the original Metal Gear for the MSX before you play this one. But they always play that one, which is not a bad game. But they're like, I think I'm done after that. And then they don't go on and play the second one. I'm like, God damn it, the second one's the one you need to play. It is so fucking good. It is, and the music is amazing in it. It's an amazing like my standard track is called Advance Immediately, and it's just listen to it sometime. It's great. Great.
My number 5 is also a Konami game, actually. And I could have picked pretty much any game from this series. But I had a rule that I forgot to mention. I was only ever going to pick one game per series, no matter how good the overall music
Blades
was.
of Steel, just say it. Come on.
Silent Hill 2,
Oh,
because Akira Yamaoka is a musical genius. Like every game that he has been a part of is just beautiful to listen to. And I picked 2 because Silent Hill 2 because it is pretty much all instrumental. I could have picked 3, which has some good tracks, but there's a lot more voiced, tracks to it. 2 is pretty much beginning to end just beautiful instrumental music. There are a few that don't hit quite as well, but like Theme of Laura, Promise. There are just so many iconic tracks from Silent Hill 2, and it's a soundtrack I could listen to at the drop of a hat, just completely removed from the game. Just if you haven't heard any of Akira Yamaoka's soundtracks, you're missing out. Just incredible stuff. So my number 5, Silent Hill 2, originally for the PS2 and Xbox. I yeah, I think those are still the best versions because the remastered versions they came out with weren't really
Watch
good.
that one
Yeah,
a
they were
lot.
pretty bad. So
It was if I had to like for a series that I didn't put any games on, Silent Hill 2 has the best soundtrack for sure. So nicely done.
thank you.
Oh, let's see. I have it's like I'm in a toss-up now, but I think since Hudson has broke the Metal Gear ice, proverbially, I'm gonna go with either Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, or 3. All three are fantastic soundtracks. I think maybe 2 or 3 edges out 1, but I feel like Snake Eater is one of the best soundtracks of the Metal Gear Solid series. I think Ground Zeroes 5, like with Kojima being out of it, kind of like gives me a sour taste. But uh, you're basically sneaking through the jungle, snapping people's necks, eating snakes, and tranquilizing people. You know, and you got Revolver Ocelot. Gameplay aside, like the soundtrack is just really great. So I love it.
Now, have you played the second game for the MSX?
Yes.
You have.
Yeah, because it's on the probably about like what 15 years ago, the Metal Gear Solid collection for PS3 and Xbox 360 had the MSX version of Metal Gear 2. So I have played both, and I've played Snake's Revenge. The NES ports are trash compared to the MSX
Snake's
version.
Revenge. I gotta say, I think it's overly hated. I think it's a
Me
good
too.
game. The side-scrolling parts
Mhm.
sink it, but other than that, it's and that's got an excellent soundtrack too.
Yeah.
Snake's Revenge does. Sorry, I didn't mean to
So
sidetrack.
I feel like I don't know. I mean, Metal Gear, great franchise, great series. Konami again. I feel like Konami seems to be the most common publisher tonight. But yeah, that's where I would put my number 5. Metal
Where
Gear
did they go
Solid.
wrong?
Yeah.
I have to defend my honor now that you said that. First of all, I don't appreciate you guys cheating and using 3 Metal Gear games for one spot, but
You're just mad we used the Konami code.
my number 4 is the entire Legend of Zelda series.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And over the next 20
when were
minutes,
we
I'll
going to
tell
get to
you
that
why.
point?
Funny
You got to
part is,
pick
I'm
at
not
least.
joking. My
You
number 4
got to.
actually is the Legend of Zelda entire series.
Oh, I know. I have no doubt that you're not joking, but
Yeah.
I just need you to pick at least one track that stands above the
Well,
rest.
let me go through a couple of these because I actually did go back and listen to quite a few of the soundtracks for this. OG Legend of Zelda, thought about it, fantastic. Introduced us to that famous theme music, love it, good stuff. Maybe not deep enough, but it's good. Legend of Zelda 2. Listen to that one this week as well because I was like, I bet that had a really good soundtrack. It does have a really good soundtrack,
It
turns
does.
out. Overworld theme, pretty solid. Some of the
Yeah.
battle
The
stuff,
temple
pretty
theme.
solid. Good stuff. Link to the Past, I figured would be my winner, but didn't come up quite as strong as I thought it was going to. Ocarina of Time, fantastic. First soundtrack I got included with a game on a disc. The game wasn't on a disc, to be clear. The soundtrack was on a disc.
Games
Just to
don't
be
come on
It's
clear.
a
discs. That's crazy
cart-based
talk.
system, not a disc-based system.
Yeah, I was confused what they wanted me to even do with it. I just put it on my little pinky and twirled it. Might still be in the basement somewhere. I think it might be, but good stuff there. That has some pretty iconic stuff in it as well. Majora's Mask, I'll admit I didn't get a chance to go back and listen to this week.
Oh, it's so good.
A lot of people said it's their favorite one as well, so apologies there. Wind Waker, love the soundtrack to this one. Just
Mhm.
going through the ocean theme, which is, 90% of the game.
Du-du-du.
If you have the old version,
Du-du-du-du-du.
fantastic. Oh my God, so good. Twilight Princess did not get a chance to go back and listen to this week, but I've heard that is super dark and a lot of people love it as well. Oh my gosh. And then the two you'd assume I have on here recently, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, both fantastic music, very detailed, but not enough standout individual tracks to make it up here. The one I was impressed by, I will finish with this. The one I was impressed by was all the people online that said it was the first orchestral version from a Zelda game. It's about my least favorite Zelda game, but I think Matt has a soft spot for it, if I recall.
Skyward Sword.
I do.
Skyward Sword.
Great soundtrack.
If you got
which
the special edition
is
that came with a pack-in soundtrack from Koji Kondo, which
I
is
have I
great.
have that. I have that.
Yeah,
I didn't get that. Mine came with a gold Wiimote, I think.
it should have been in there.
Oh, what was it
Yeah,
on?
it was a disc,
A
which
what?
you threw away.
I thought that
You
was
thought it
like
was a
one of those
coaster.
AOL
Yeah,
things. I didn't know what that was.
yeah. It
10
did.
free hours.
I'll
The,
rip it and send it to you.
So
the
I
main
cheated.
main
I
theme
took
is
the entire Zelda series at my number 4.
that's a great choice. I feel like I had Legend of Zelda blank because I was in the same spot as you. Not that we're gonna get there, and that's my number 4 eventually, but we'll get there. But one more tidbit about Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
The main theme is Zelda's Lullaby in reverse.
Ah,
If you've ever listened to that one, it's literally just the composition of Zelda's Lullaby in reverse.
interesting.
Okay, well, I guess on to number 4 for me. Had I known I could pick an entire series,
Oh, you can't.
I would have picked an entire series. I'm not going to, because it would really be a cop out on this one. I was choosing between Life Force and Gradius 3. I went with Gradius 3, but they're both in the same series, so I could just be like, "Bleh." Anyway, um, for those of you who don't know, probably none of you do, on my cell phone, and I need to really update this, but everybody has a unique Super Nintendo ringtone, and my just general ringtone is a Gradius 3 song. Like, I could listen to that soundtrack straight through, like, over and over and not even care. The track I picked as my standout track is called "In the Wind." I believe it's stage 3. Doesn't really matter. I've never played through the darn thing. I suck at shooters, but it's a great song and it just gets stuck in my head. Um, "In the Wind." It's great. Um, yeah, excellent song. Excellent soundtrack. Um, I don't remember what any of the other tracks are called. There's one called "Carnivorous Plant" that's really good, but yeah, they're so good. It's a good score.
It's, yeah, the handful of times I actually have my cell phone off of vibrate, my default ringtone is the Sega CD BIOS music.
Nice.
It actually had a very nice jingle to it.
I will tell you. I don't know if I don't remember how I chose my songs. I remember why I chose Cody's. I don't remember why I chose yours, Justin, but yours is actually from a game you picked tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Uh,
Chrono Trigger. It's from Chrono Trigger.
Nice.
Now you mentioned Frog's theme as a standout there.
Uh-huh.
That's another friend of mine who I used to call Toledo Justin because when I met him, he kind of reminded me of you. But he has Frog's theme. You have Magus's theme.
Oh,
Is
okay.
his name
I
not
can remember
Justin?
No, his name's Adrian. And
Oh,
now that I've known him for a good 15 years, I see various large differences. But when I
Sure.
first met him, he just sort of reminded very similar.
I
What's
gotcha.
my theme, Matt?
I don't have one. I need to update it. Your phone, your number was added to my phone later. So you're
It's
still
okay,
the
I'll
Gradius. You're still the Gradius theme. I gotta update.
I'll save you
What
with
is
my
mine
number 4
again?
pick.
Sim City Village.
Ah,
Yeah.
So is there what's your favorite Super NES score? The one on
Me?
here? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I feel like Gradius 3 is up there, but I'd probably say Terra's theme from Final Fantasy VI or
I don't know if I've used that one yet.
the Sands of Time from Chrono Trigger.
Sands of Time I haven't used. A lot of
Lot
Chrono Trigger, a lot of Final Fantasy VI in there, but I think yeah. Okay.
nerd.
Anyway,
Sorry.
You're
Tangent.
good.
fine.
Continue
All
on.
right, back to
All
the
right.
Zelda countdown. The Minish Cap. When I heard of this one, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
All right.
Never
My
played
number
the Minish
4.
Cap.
I haven't either. I've heard it's
pretty
fun.
good. Capcom
Yeah.
produced. Good one.
Nice. Okay, not Capcom produced. My number 4, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. This is just, it's lively. It's varied. It is catchy as all hell. Standout track, Chemical Plant Zone. This one will just randomly pop up in my head, and it always makes me smile because it just has such energy to it. And I mean, I could have picked the Casino Night Zone, also very memorable. But yeah, just from beginning to end, this soundtrack just it hits on all levels, and it's like peak, almost peak Sega Genesis music. So, Sonic in general had really good music back then, but Sonic 2 just knocks it out of the park.
Keep it going. I've got the next Sonic, the Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Nice.
The you know, Rumor Mill, which I think is probably I mentioned it before that like when they remaster series, they don't always have the sound rights. So Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was produced, some of the tracks were produced by Michael Jackson. And so because that estate now owns those tunes, there's, several themes that if you buy a remastered version of the game, you have this terrible like filler music that's nowhere near. But like standout tracks would be the first level. Why am I blanking on it? It's not Emerald Hill Zone, but it's basically the island music. And then Ice Cap Zone 1 and 2 are the best tunes on that one. But yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is brilliant. I feel like it's the first game that introduced saves. So you can go back and like, I don't know, for a game in the 1993 range, you could turn it back on and be able to start from where you last left off. But soundtrack is baller. That's my number 4. Or are we on 4?
Blue, just to be clear, you
Anyways,
should have 3 left at this point.
I got it. I am one. Okay,
And
good.
Knuckles.
He's taking one out. He has 4
3
left.
Knuckles.
Sonic has 3 knuckles?
He does.
Okay. All right,
Yes,
here
not
we
wrong.
go. I think we're up to the top 3. My number 3 is going to be. Now listen, here's a confession. I got 3 games left on this list. 2 of these I've been thinking about the music for them might actually be inspired to go back and replay through. Problem. I'm pretty sure I sold both of these games off after I played them. So, all right. I'm not positive I sold this next one, but I think I did. It's a recent one, though. Justin and I have talked a lot about this. This game took me by storm. Number 3 for me is Near Automata. I just was so impressed with the play style, graphics, and especially the music in this one really did it for me with just beautifully sung songs. I don't know what the hell they're singing, but beautifully sung songs and different worlds. Again, having a little bit of a different feel like every game, but not as drastic in this one. It was kind of all variations of more or less the same style of music. I felt like more. The world's not huge either, so maybe that's a little bit of it, but um, this is another one where like I would throw this on as just like background music and just listen to songs off of it while I was doing something at the house or even if I had like students working in class, I would throw on some of these and just kind of let this one play. This is a beautiful one and yeah, I got nothing else to say on this. It's good stuff though. Near Automata is my number 3 tonight. Not well, actually I did play it on Nintendo. Never mind, cancel that.
I did not expect to hear you bring up Near Automata
Yeah,
because you
that's
raised
right.
an eyebrow when Henry first mentioned it. And I was like, well, is that how it's going to be tonight? But lo and behold,
Look at
here you
that.
are
Look
Yeah.
at me
in
with
your
my
top
cartridge game.
threes.
Well, my number 3 is our first repeated game,
Winner of the night. What is it, Matt?
Hollow Knight.
Ooh.
Oh,
Hollow Knight. Great atmospheric score from beginning to end. My only issue with the score is at times it's not particularly melodic, but it's very mood setting. But my favorite standout track, easily by far, City of Tears.
oh yeah.
Very, very great song. Pretty song. I it's one we have a playlist of piano arrangements of like video game music that we play in the living room for when the dog is sleeping. It kind of keeps him from hearing crap outside, and that's on that list. I think he really likes that one, but it's one of my favorites for sure. Um,
Can you
it's
blame
not
him?
there's not a bad tune in that game. There
Yeah,
really isn't. Um,
Nice.
yeah.
Okay. My number three, I'm going to be committing a bit of blasphemy for this one because in the fandom, everyone says the second game is the best, like across the board for gameplay, for graphics, for music. I disagree. I feel the music for the first game in this series, it just has such a sense of cohesion and such just an identity to it that it it works better as a soundtrack, even though I think all the tracks are just like stage one, stage two, stage three without actual names. Um, my number three is Streets of Rage for the Sega Genesis. And from that opening title crawl, where it's just that this low key, jazzy kind of intro where it feels like you actually are about to sit down and watch or play like an 80s like crime drama kind of a thing. And then it kicks into this driving beat underneath it all. And that just carries through where each stage has its own identity, but it all feels like it belongs to the same era, the same style of game, and it is just a beautiful soundtrack. It has a lot of energy, and yet it's mellow at the same time. Um, this, I believe, was by Yuzo Koshiro, who did the soundtrack for like the entire series, but he did his best work in Streets of Rage 1, I think. Just absolutely incredible chip tunes. If you get the chance, just listen to the title music from Streets of Rage 1 and tell me I'm wrong.
Yep. Do-do-do-do-do. Bap, bap,
Streets
bap,
of
bap.
Rage.
Dun, dun, dun.
Justin, you
Yeah,
will at least be happy to know that I did listen to a little bit of Streets of Rage 2 in preparation for my list because I did consider it. Non-Nintendo game, guys.
but it didn't make your list. Get
Didn't
out
make
of
my
here.
list.
No, I
Didn't
mean,
happen.
it's. I
Ten's a
mean,
tough list to come up with for a billion fucking games.
Yuzo
Yeah.
Koshiro has got such a great discography. I mean, the
Yes.
ActRaiser games,
Oh, yes.
they're good soundtracks, which I feel like Cody, you would probably love ActRaiser if you've never
I haven't
played it.
played that one actually.
Really good.
Oh,
On the
Um,
it's a
Super NES.
cartridge-based game.
It is on
cartridge-based
the
game.
Super NES. Never played it though.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw when you get into the splitting hairs between my one, two, and three because they're all just equally the some of the best soundtracks ever. But I think
We'll be the judge of that.
I'm gonna go with the Final Fantasy series here, and I have three games that are equal in terms of how great I feel their soundtracks are. I'd say the best one that is nostalgic for me would be eight. I think eight's soundtrack is just brilliant. Nobuo Uematsu's like got some really good dungeon music. The battle theme is great. There's basically they're teenagers that live in a a garden and they're seeds and they they go and fight as soldiers. It's really strange and peculiar, and the story gets a little wacky, but I love it. The Man with the Machine Gun is probably one of my favorite tracks that Uematsu has done. The Force Your Way boss theme music is great for it. But then I have six and seven. Both Terrace theme is probably my favorite theme from six, and then Cosmo Canyon for seven is probably one of my favorite tracks of it. But just those three, I think, represent like a golden age of that series, and so I just wanted to throw them on there. Which leaves my two that I think are rightly, just like I said, you can't. I think they're basically for three-way tie if I had to rank the impact of the composers of these three series, but I think Final Fantasy just narrowly misses the second or first place mark.
This guy's a big fan of Top Gun for the NES. I can't wait for that one to come up.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, my number two game. Read my lips. No new taxes. Unless I need to raise money to build my city. Sim City at number two, people. That's right. You know what the amazing thing was? When I started that quote, I wasn't actually linking it to my pick, but it actually worked as I kept going through the quote. So, Sim City for Matt and his ringtone is my number two. How many hours can you play a game and just hear the same damn song go through over and over and over and over and over?
Not long enough for
Apparent.
the village.
I
It
love the village.
changes too quickly.
That's true. I love the city theme. I love the capital theme. Past that, it gets a little stressful for me. I don't know what's going on with the Megalopolis theme. I have never heard it in real life because I can't get a fucking Megalopolis in that game, no matter how many years I've played it. But maybe this summer will be the year I'll go back to it again and try because I've gotten really close, like 450, 460 maybe, but never to the half mil. So hard, but SimCity is so great. So, I mean, it's oddly relaxing for a game where you do nothing but solve problems. Which I never really thought of it that way before, but it is fun. I almost always cheat and do the $1 million code, I'll be honest. But yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to beat that game regularly. Are you good at that
I
game regularly?
I started to play it the other day, like the other day being like probably 5 years ago. I don't remember when. It's been
Yeah,
a long time. But I'm like, I couldn't remember the code to get all the money, and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to play this game. Like, there's no way to actually play the game without the money.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know how people do it, but fantastic. Uh, is
Great.
there one between? Is there
What's
like a
the?
town theme?
Yeah, there's a town.
Yeah, town's good too. So it's village, town, city, capital. Yeah, I like the first four, and then the like mega metropolis. That gets too paranoidy for me. That's like when your lines get to the top of Tetris, all of a sudden you're like, "Hey, this was a good theme. What did you do to it?"
He sped it up.
Goes a little crazy, but that's my number two, SimCity.
I don't think I have picked a straight up original NES game yet. And there's so many I could pick. There's like endless good scores throughout the NES's history, but I had to go with one that I could listen to from beginning to end and not actually skip any tracks. Um, that comes down to Blaster Master. Blaster Master is a great soundtrack. If you've never played it,
That's a
you're in
good
a
one.
little tank, and it's kind of like a Metroidvania. Um, you get like power ups for your tank and let you get to new places and new areas. But all of the area themes in that are good. Probably my least favorite is Area 4, but I still like it. Standout is Area 5. Now that is a game to which I literally just played to see if I could get to Area 5 so I could sit there and listen to the music. That's yeah. And it's a pain in the ass to get there. It's such a hard game. You only get so many continues. The boss to level 3 is a pain. Um, it is a hard game, but damn, the score is good.
Good choice.
Fair enough. Okay, my number one and number two have bounced back and forth between positions like but the better part of the past week because they are both really, really good. And eventually I picked this game as number two because the number one just doesn't have any misses. It is good from beginning to end. This one is incredibly, incredibly good, but it does have some lesser tracks to it. My number two is Alan Wake 2. See, and I need to talk a little bit about this game because Remedy Entertainment, the studio that makes the series, they essentially have a house band on call that goes by the Old Gods of Asgard that are actually characters in the Alan Wake games. And their actual band name is called the Poets of the Fall, but for this universe, they are called the Old Gods of Asgard. And they have, I believe, three, if not four tracks in Alan Wake 2. They are incredible. Herald of Darkness is worth the price of admission alone. It is essentially you're fighting your way through a rock opera retelling of the first game, and it is very hard to explain, but it is one of the most epic sequences I've ever played in anything ever. Um, but Anger's Remorse is very good. And it's not all these guys. There are some other songs in there too, including one that's entirely in Finnish. That is, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. It's titled Yotonyo, which means nightless night. You just hear this like wafting out of a building in a town that you're going through, and you can go in, and the guy on stage will sing the entire song in Finnish, and it's all about like it's essentially about the big bad of the game, about how he will be the end of us all. There's no escape, etc. and so on. But it's all in Finnish, so you don't know that. But he has such a deep and like sonorous quality to his voice that you can just sit there and listen to it, and it's just something you can walk right on by if you wanted to. And the game is just filled with excellent musical numbers like that. Um, Dark Ocean Summoning, the climactic song of the game has you fighting off just waves of enemies that are coming out of a lake that is also an ocean, that is also like a portal to the underworld. That it is. It's hard to do this game justice. The music is incredible. The game is a lot of fun. It is one of the most convoluted yet interesting narratives I've seen in a series. Alan Wake 2, the Alan Wake series in general is amazing. The soundtrack for this game is just phenomenal. I cannot praise it enough. That is my number two. It's on PC and I believe PS5 and I want to say Xbox Series X and S. If you get a chance, just listen to the soundtrack. It is so fucking good.
I was not expecting that. That was a curveball. Feel
I
like
tried.
I am pretty boilerplate here. Was we pulling on into the station? I'm gonna go with Cody and say the Legend of Zelda series. And I'd say and change it up a little bit. So I have just put my top five there. So I think Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, but then I think Link's Awakening and the two Capcom games, Oracle of Ages and Seasons in there. And then finally, feel like Breath of the Wild and the fact that it remixed a lot of the original tunes, uh, like Hateno Village, you can hear Dragon Roost Island, just depending on where you are, like you can see, and I get maybe that's the scope of how much the soundtracks have influenced the games. Uh, the fact that you have remixes for Breath of the Wild as a series was when it was 2017, so it had just hit, 30 years old as a series, but it was really great fan service. But all those games have memorable soundtracks. The sound team is awesome. I think Koji Kondo didn't do Breath of the Wild. I think at that point he had stepped aside, but um that said, the soundtrack for even the most recent, Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, they still capture that feel. But um no standalone tracks, but I feel like Kakariko Village is a great one as a series mainstay. I like hearing I think if I picked a tune from Link to the Past, it would be the Dark World theme. Pretty kick-ass. And then my other favorite tune would probably be Gerudo Valley on Ocarina of Time. But yeah. And then Cody picked the ocean theme for Wind Waker. I would say Dragon Roost Island or even Outset, like the first place that you start, Outset Island was, just a great way to set the tone for that game. So I don't know. Maybe it's a cop out, but I would fight anyone and I would do it. And then Dry Docks. Can't forget that. Gotta mention that again. Is that the right game? I think so.
Boy, I think. Oh boy. Oh boy, this guy. Oh goodness. All right, guys, let's do this. Number ones. Here we go. Very little repeats here tonight, but my number one. I might have mentioned this game before on a podcast. I can't think of what podcast it would have been, though, if so, because we haven't done a one on these particular systems that it came out on, and I don't think I don't know, maybe I've mentioned it though. Anyway, number one for me, um, and in 10 years, this probably will not be my number one because I'm probably still riding a high, but I've been riding this high for a few years now, and I'm still on this. The soundtrack is good, but the main title theme to this game almost breaks my rule of having just the one song carry to be on the list here tonight because the track one on this is just so good. I listen to it actually like once a month, I would say, pretty often for me for a video game song. And this is my favorite Rockstar Games game, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen. My number one tonight is going to be LA Noir, which is non-ironically the number one spot for me here tonight. This kind of seedy jazz, like neo-noir music for the detective game is fantastic. Um, I love the main theme to this game. Like I literally do listen to it all the time, and I make my students listen to it as well all the time. So it's good stuff. The game was really awesome. We haven't talked about the game, so just a quick minute on the game. It's a big open world set in like 20s, 30s Hollywood, seedy underbelly of what's going on in society, tax evasion, domestic violence. We got black market stuff being sold here. And it was also the game that, if you remember, made use of the like facial scans that were pretty revolutionary at the time, where like you'd go to somebody's house and interrogate them, and they'd actually show like how their face reacts to it, and then you could pick your options based on what they actually um, were acting like, which was kind of cool. I didn't always do the best on them. I'm not positive they all were mapped quite the way the answers played out as choices on those, but it was fantastic from start to finish. I enjoyed everything about it. The real problem with the game, I will say, and why it's not like my favorite game of all time or anything close to that, is because the big open world was pretty empty. That was the biggest problem with that. Like for the cases that you went around to investigate and places you'd go to if you were directed to, those were awesome. But like driving point A to point B, there were no collectibles. There was no like random person you could stop and talk to, etc. It was basically like a big empty Grand Theft Auto um, that was there for you to like manipulate your car as you drive through, more or less. But it was fantastic. What are you bitching about over here? God, can't even get this new laptop to do what I want it to do. What did you do? What did you joke
It's
about
a
over here?
disc-based system, Cody. It'll take some time for you to learn it.
Uh, no, there's no discs on this. Yeah, I waited till that was done. Now there's no discs anymore on these. Fan of Breath of the Wild? Yeah. What about it? What's the problem?
Big open world with
Yeah.
nothing in it.
Breath of the Wild is so full of stuff, it's ridiculous. So is Tears of the Kingdom. I can't get from point A to point B with beyond like 3 days of playing because I encounter so much stuff. I don't know what you're talking about. This is my number one. It's LA Noire. Give me a sequel to this somehow, some way. I don't know how it makes sense, but let's make it happen, people.
I've never heard of it. I'd love to try it sometime.
This is absolutely absurd. Like what?
Oh,
My
just wait.
my honorable mention number one was Justin Henry singing Double Dragon Neon songs and Mad Hudson's arcade musical. So there we go.
Excellent.
Aw.
All right, my number one. And y'all know what's coming. Like, y'all
Kicks.
know. I mean, yeah, Kicks is great. Does it have any music?
I
I
think
think
you
it's
might
a
be
cereal,
thinking
isn't it?
Clax.
Oh, I don't know. Okay.
Um, so yeah, this game provided the processional music for my friggin' wedding.
Ice
So
Climbers.
it's gotta be Final Fantasy VI. I mean, it's nothing I can say about it. Blue actually said a lot about it already. It's a great score. There's not a moment I don't like about it. If I had to pick a track that, and my track pick is kind of a cop out, I'll say that. It's the ending music because it's literally a fugue of all 14 characters' themes. And it's beautiful, and I've been looking for a really good orchestral version of it for years. I found some that are pretty darn good, but I have never found one that really quite hits everything I want it to hit. But there's 14 different playable characters in it. They all have their own theme, and I don't know, it's great. Great score. I don't know that we have a winning game for sure because several have been mentioned, but I would say Yu Uematsu probably had the most games in this list. With possible exception of Koji Kondo, if you count all the Zelda games. But other than that,
Nice. All right. I find it interesting, Cody's pick for number one, that it was also very jazz heavy, because so is mine. And it's interesting that every game, every modern game in the series that this game is a part of, it has a different musical theme to it. My pick is Persona 5 for my number one. Persona 3 was very hip hop and R&B. Persona 4 was very pop heavy. Persona 5 is jazz primarily, and it works way better than I expected it to. Uh, from the kind of the downtime of being at the cafe, I believe that track is called Beneath the Mask, to uh, I'm blanking on like the track names for a lot of them, but my favorite is called Life Will Change. And it is the instrumental version, I should say, because a lot of these versions have like these tracks have an instrumental version and a vocalized version as well. Um, the first time you hear Life Will Change is the first time you're actually in a spot where there's no turning back. Um, and this really, when this kicks in as you're heading into territory you've seen before, it really gives it a different feel. It's like, okay, there is literally no room for error here. There is no chance of a redo. There's no backing out. You have to do this or everything is over. And it is just it starts off with this, simple yet driving beat that repeats a few times, and every time it repeats, it adds another layer of music underneath it, like another instrument or another beat, until it finally hits the tipping point where the song really kicks into gear, and it is this energetic, just hopeful yet desperate, jazzy action song. It's very hard to describe, and especially if you haven't experienced it in the moment, where the first time you hear it in the game is the first time you're hearing the song. It is just fantastic because and the game is full of music like this, where it encapsulates what's going on perfectly. Um, and yeah, Persona 5 is an incredible game with an absolutely unbelievably good soundtrack. Um, I guess haven't said much about the game itself. Uh, it was an important game when it came out in 2016. It's an important game now because it is all about standing up to corrupt authority, even when the entire world is against you. That's an important message, and it's one you rarely see tackled in a game, especially when that game acknowledges there's going to be consequences. Persona 5 is incredible. The music is incredible, and it is my number one game soundtrack definitively, even though Alan Wake 2 is a close second. Um, if you like JRPGs and you don't mind a really long time investment, you owe it to yourself to play Persona 5 or Persona 5 Royal, which is the expanded version.
Do you have to
Fantastic
play
game.
1 through 4 to understand 5?
No,
Or are
no,
they
it's its own self-contained thing.
okay?
It came out originally on PS4. I'm pretty sure it has like ports to modern consoles, the PS5. It might have I think it does have a Switch version.
Chip version with a
Xbox,
cartridge.
yeah. But an incredible game that is very much worth experiencing.
I did listen to a little bit of Alan Wake 1 in preparation for tonight as well, Justin. You'd be happy to know.
That's also part of the reason why two didn't wasn't my number one, because there are songs from the first game that aren't in the second one that are also really good.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
All right, well, this is awkward. Blue doesn't have a game left on his list.
Oh my gosh, I knew I had counted wrong. No, it's pretty easy.
It's
I'd
Balls
say
3D.
it is Balls 3D. It is
Elevator action.
yep. It's not I feel like this is probably the best game soundtrack of all time.
Whoa.
Cody's already mentioned it, but Streets of Rage 2 by Yuzo Koshiro. And yeah, I mean, it's got so much. I don't even know where you would start with it, but Yuzo Koshiro was a big fan of like 80s club music, and you can see from the get-go that like just got the vibe of running around and punching people as a vigilante cop, and it's great. There's not a bad track on that soundtrack. Um, the the level, each of the tunes matches the level perfectly. I mean, I think for the first game, Streets of Rage 1 and 2 were my number one. But, for example, Streets of Rage 1, there's a beach level. It perfectly matches that you'd be like fighting on a beach and then fighting the Ultimate Warrior as a boss. And um man, I don't feel like you I feel like you can do anything to slight the soundtracks. They're just masterful. So much so that like there's a YouTube video of people where Yuzo Koshiro, like they're having a live concert in Japan to the music, or maybe it's not Japan, regardless, but they're like just jamming out, and what fanfare to be like have a live studio performance. I mean, I've seen the Final Fantasy Symphony Orchestras; those are awesome to go and see a live performance. But this that soundtrack is Streets of Rage 2 is in my top 10 games. Streets of Rage 2 is my favorite game soundtrack. It never disappoints. And I'm glad I get to share that with you. Even though it didn't even make Cody's top 10. So you should just know the takeaway is it's not a surprise to anyone. Joe Janko would agree that Cody's musical taste is shit. But
to build off of what Blue just said, I actually have a book about the history of beat 'em ups, and the title of this book is "Go Straight," which is the title of the first stage track from Streets of Rage 2. So that it is that iconic.
Mhm.
So
I mean, it's just like, and they're so varied. Like the Go Straight has like 3 or 4 different movements within the song. It's just like, how is that so varied? And just, I've watched people who love music like react to hearing that song for the first time. And it's just, one, they're like, I feel like I've been living under a rock to never have heard this for the first time. But then they're like, it's revelatory. Like, I would have never considered putting these chords together for this particular song. And it's great. It's a great way of honoring like the 80s club music. It's a great way of playing an awesome beat 'em up. Probably one of the best beat 'em ups of all time. And yeah, I don't feel like I need to belabor it anymore. If you don't like Streets of Rage 2, then F you.
Now I have
I'll
like
drink to
10,
that.
10 new games I got to play.
What, Hudson?
I know. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
I know I suck.
At the next man night, I'm bringing the Genesis and we're gonna play it. And
Yes.
it's got stereo sound. We'll put it through Cody's speakers and blow out his sound bar and then blow out his back.
Soundbar. You crazy kids and your new inventions. Matt, remind me, do you actually have a Switch? Yes?
I do have a Switch.
Ah, damn. See, I'll have to. I know I sold LA Noir, but I'll check if I sold that other one because I could ship those to you pretty quickly.
All
Um,
right.
all right, well,
I guess-
unofficial results tonight. I guess this would be Brett's spot where he's been keeping track behind the scenes. Tie for 5th place tonight, although we're kind of going hard and loose with the rules here. So tie for 5th place, possibly our real winner tonight? Question mark is Hollow Knight with 12 points because it's only one game. Tied with I just lumped some of these now because of some shenanigans. Metal Gear Solid, the franchise, has 12 points.
Wait. I did
Right?
not
No,
put a
not
Metal Gear
Solid.
Solid
Yeah, he
game.
put
I
Metal Gear 2.
Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake's a different
Yeah, it is.
The Metal
Cody.
Gear series, not a solid game.
You plebeian.
Yeah.
I just said Metal Gear. Is that wrong? Okay.
No.
4th place game tonight / conglomeration here. It goes to the Sonic the Hedgehog games, 2 and 3 with 14 points. And then in 3rd place with 16 points, apparently, is the entire Legend of Zelda series. 2nd place with 18 points would be the Streets of Rage series, 1 and 2 specifically mentioned there. And number 1, I think, although you guys seem to have some confusion over whether or not this is actually a Final Fantasy game, but if it is, then Final Fantasy is the winner with 22 points tonight, based on the strength of Andrew's 8 through 6, Matt 6, and the highly questionable Final Fantasy Legend 2 game. So
It's called that in the U.S., but in Japan, it's a Serious Saga.
Keep it as it is. I feel like,
if it's Final Fantasy, then Final Fantasy wins tonight, Matt. So is it Final Fantasy or isn't it Final Fantasy?
Yes.
Okay,
It is.
okay.
Just leave it. I feel like it's just the tip of the hat because I mean,
I kind of want Streets of Rage to win now. See, there we go. All right.
I mean, you can't go wrong. In fact,
I didn't even know they made a Final Fantasy game other than Mystic Quest. I thought that was the only one in the series.
Oh my god!
In
The
Japan,
best.
it's not a Final Fantasy game either. I don't even know if that game exists in there. I thought it was just
Probably not.
like-
They probably destroyed all the
I think it's called
copies right
actually
away.
Final Fantasy USA or Final Fantasy America or something.
They're Final
So
Fantasy.
everyone has
Look at
guns.
these dumb fucking Americans. That's what it's
Yeah.
called.
Zoom back.
So you said, Justin, that Royal is that's the
It's
game, the same game?
it,
Because
it's
that's
an
on
ex,
Steam and that I can play.
it's an expanded version of Persona 5. So it has everything in the first one, but it goes further.
Okay. It'll
So
be a
yeah, it
while
is.
before I can play it because it's a good $60, but
That's
uh,
fair. Highly recommended. It is just
I'm-
the Persona series in general is really good. Five is my favorite one of them. So it is. It has a lot of really good characters. The story it resonates now just as much now, if not more so, than when
hmm.
it first came out. It is a very solid, very unorthodox kind of RPG.
I will
So
put it on the list. I'm about 3 Metroidvanias behind because I got overzealous with buying them.
ah,
I need to finish the
What do you got?
Guacamelee series. I need to
Oh,
finish Nine Souls, which I
yeah.
bought even though I was told that's parry heavy, and I hate parrying in games. I suck at it.
mm,
But I kept hearing people say, even if you're not good at parrying or don't like it, you'll still really enjoy this one. So I tried it, and then I keep getting my arse handed to me. So
Hudson,
Hollow
did
Knight
you
had
play?
no parrying that I
Hmm.
remember.
yeah,
And yeah, so
I feel like Metroidvanias are the way to go as we are middle aged.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
What
like
else do I got?
Hades. Hades is great for that regards. I mean,
Oh,
Slay the Spire.
oh,
Anything
Slay
that
the
lets you
Spire is
like
so good.
God, I'm really
just
far behind. I got Guacamelee 2. I've
Oh, also
started
good.
both of those. Rain World, I didn't get very far in that.
Hmm.
Technically, I still need to finish Dead Cells, although I'd hardly call that Metroidvania. Both
Yeah, it's more
Blasphemous
roguelike.
games, I'm at the last boss, but can't beat him either one. Um,
I don't
just
even
do
know what Rain
Blaster
roguelike.
World
Master
is.
Zero 3, I still need to beat.
The first Blasphemous was really
No,
good. I haven't played the second one yet, but
it
the new
second
one's
one I
good.
liked actually better, but again, the end Grime, I didn't get very far in, and it's not a Metroidvania, but I still got to finish Danganronpa. My students got really mad at me when I said that I started playing it, but I haven't finished it. Like, no, Mr. Hudson, you got to finish Danganronpa.
You should probably
It's a
play
solid series.
Lollipop Chainsaw because it's a really good Metroidvania.
I'm
Lollipop
surprised your
Chains,
students knew what that was.
Danganronpa.
Yeah, I had that written on my board for a good chunk of the fall, and they were like, "What is that?" And I was like,
Oh,
"Ugh."
No, yeah. One of them was like, should I draw you this character or the bear from Danganronpa? I'm like, draw me the bear from Danganronpa.
good old Monokuma.
Well, bring
I
us home, Cody.
yeah, I get confused by the Persona games when I see them on sale for the Switch because it's always like Tactica, Royal, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, I don't know what to
Uh,
do with these,
um,
so
Tactica is a
no.
spin-off. It's like a strategy RPG that you need to have played Persona 5 or Royal to understand. Same with Strikers. Strikers is like a sort of spin-off sequel. Persona
Mhm.
5 slash Persona 5 Royal is like the core game.
Gotcha. Well, Matt, next time we talk, Matt, I'll give you all of the 2025 most anticipated Metroidvanias I put on my list this year, so you can
Well,
start
to
stockpiling
to be
those.
fair, there's a crap ton on here that I have finished. Um,
Yes.
Hollow Knight, Axiom Verge, Bloodstained, Ori 1, Ori 2,
Yeah,
Time Spinner, Infernax,
Jesus.
Yoku's Island Express. I have played a lot of them.
Are you writing a book on these?
I just enjoy them. I've been trying to tide myself over till frickin' Silk Song comes out.
Yeah.
You
uh,
should play the
It,
Yakuza series while you wait.
is it coming out at all
I
or?
who knows? I did pick up the first Yakuza game though on Steam during one of the last sales, so I will be trying that at some point, Blue.
It's so good. Play if it's Kiwami, play Kiwami
Yes.
1 and 2, and then play 0.
Okay.
The series just gets bonkers, but and then there's
Nice.
I guess a pirate game coming out,
Yes, that one
a
looks
spin-off.
that looks insane. That is part of why I picked up Kiwami just to get a feel for the series in general.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
also,
mean,
Matt, it's an older game
good.
by a couple of years now, but I'll also give you a little plug for Curse of the Sea Rats as well, if you're intrigued, with some
Yeah,
beautifully hand-drawn Metroidvania
Curse of the
Curse
stuff.
of
Sea
the
Rat.
Oberdin. It's a good
Let's
one.
see.
I need to play that
If
one
it's
still.
really cheap, I'll consider it. Curse of the
I
Sea.
started with my kids like 2 years ago. We actually still have not gone
Oh
through,
wait,
but
I've heard of this one. It's really supposed to be really short, isn't it?
shrug hasn't been short the way we're playing it.
It says mixed reviews.
Oh.
Uh,
But you
Like,
know what? That doesn't matter. If you give it a pass, I'll get it's got
what
some
I've
rats
played
in
of it,
it.
I enjoyed so far. The boss fights are hard, I will say. Like we've had to go and level up a lot to be able to
See,
go
yes.
beat some of them.
have
But
any of you guys played any of Nine Souls?
No, but
on
it
my
was
wish
on
list.
my
I
list
have
from last year.
Okay, so like I got to the first major boss, okay,
uh,
and it like takes 1,000 hits to kill, but it takes off like a third of my life every time it touches me, and I
Nope.
so
that
pisses me off so much. I hate stuff like that.
that sounds like a
Yeah.
Dark Souls game, actually. Or
Yeah,
But
Elden
that's
Ring.
also I got that. My friend Matt had me download that, and I that's on
Nice.
there as well.
Very, very good. Very, very hard.
Why
So
would you do that to yourself? I
I
Well,
don't
don't.
have
here's
the
the thing
patience
is,
for
I
that
kept
these
hearing
days.
about how Hollow Knight's so hard, but I had no. I mean, it took me a long time, and I got really frustrated at times. But
Well, the difference is there's 2 planes as opposed to 3 planes.
yep.
That's
uh,
why I suck at 3D platformers, and I I I feel your pain, but I also like just know that the Souls games would haunt me, that I've never picked them up. When people are like, "Yeah, I played the first Demon Souls like for hundreds of hours and still haven't beaten it," I was like,
Mm,
"No thanks."
that's fair.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Wow, we've extinguished all of the thoughts tonight. Anybody
Hey,
else have anything
Yeah.
else?
yeah, Ninja Gaiden. Why didn't it make the list?
Yeah, you guys.
Oh,
Pretty good
because there's
soundtracks.
1,000 fucking games that came out for the NES,
yeah.
and like
Oh,
800 of them have amazing soundtracks.
Oh, I
right.
thought you meant there were 1,000 Ninja Gaiden games that came
I
out
mean,
for
there's a new
NES.
one coming out.
I was
There's
like, I did
3.
not know about those.
I sent
No,
my
it's not
brother
new
this.
Shinobi,
This
it's
I'm like, hey Doug, can you give me a list of your 10 favorite soundtracks? And he's like, out of everything, no.
So solid. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a legitimate answer. So
We did have a couple of crossovers though. He did also put Dark Lord on his list.
nice.
So
Nice.
Uh,
Nice.
okay.
All
Nice.
right. I think we have gone through the whole gamut here tonight, ladies and gents.
Yeah.
This has been Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. This has been Cody. That's Matt. That's Blue. And that's Justin up there. You'll notice Joe's not here. So it was a good episode, everybody. Whew.
Sorry,
Take care
Latvia.
out there. Stay strong.
Yes.
And,
Yep.
watch your social security.
Play Persona 5. Get ideas.
Yes.
Anyway.
All right. Sounds good. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Hey, you do.
adios.
Bye.